The first thing that we're going to look at is one of our backdrops. Now we actually have 3 backdrops as part of the Library Presents equipment, 2 of which are dark red. The one we're going to be looking at today is blue. When it arrives at the library, it will come in this one case. It's all one unit, which is not too heavy, but it also has the wonderful advantage of having wheels so that you can wheel it into a space quite easily. As equipment is moved around the libraries, you'll see that all our equipment has a baggage tag on it, which shows which library it's due to be at and where it's due to be next, so that you can make sure it gets sent to the right place. Inside the case, we will find a little stool, which will be very useful later. 2 main curtains, 1 middle curtain, and 2 joining strips. Now the first thing you're going to need for this is plenty of space, which is why we tend to put the backdrop up first, so that we've got a nice big area to work within. Now if we take one of our side curtains and we unravel it, and we want to be left with the curtain hanging down, and we can spread that out in front of us, and the black strips facing up on top of the framework. And what we're going to do, we're just going to simply drop this down, and as if by magic the curtain should pop up. Now as the curtain goes up, you'll see that on the back of the framework here there's 2 red markers, and we're just going to squeeze these gently together until they click, and up goes our curtain. On the bottom of one side there's a movable slide piece that we will put across at a right angle to make a T junction to give us stability with our curtain. Once we've done this, we then just need to neaten up the top, and this is where our stool can come in useful. And there are 3 bits that we need to straighten up. The first of these is a hook in the middle, and you'll see there's a little silver screw in the middle here, and some people think that you need to attach this into that, but you don't. You simply hook it onto the black frame, and then we have 2 little returns at the end that we pop into these circles, and there we have our first curtain. Now you might find that if you've just got a single storyteller sat on a seat, that this might suffice for your needs, but it's much more likely you're going to need at least 2 of these to give you a much more effective backdrop. So we will set up a second. Okay, so we get the second of our curtains, and once again we unroll it, and we position it so that we've got our black strips on the top. We put the curtain out. Ideally we'd be looking to have this piece of black fabric as a nice V pointing away from us, and then once again we just simply drop it, and up comes the curtain. So we squeeze the 2 red bits together until it clicks into place. We then straighten up the bar at the bottom again, just to give us a nice secure base to stabilise the curtain. We then tidy up the top. So again, the hook in the middle, just onto the black pole, and the ends into the circles. We can then put our 2 curtains together to make one much larger curtain, and it's best to do this with the returning sliders on the outside of the curtain. If necessary, then we can get our stool and we can just go along the top and just make sure this is looking nice and presentable. Now you may find that this again gives you enough for your performers. We've done a number of events where this suffices for a solo performer or someone that is staying stationary throughout the performance. But again, you might find that you need something a little bit bigger. So we'll now look at putting in the middle section. To do this, we need to use our two adjoining strips. Now these come joined together with an elastic band in the middle, and quite often people remove this thinking that they're being helpful, but actually this needs to stay on there because it helps keep the two pieces together. And what we do is, making an X, we join the clips on the end of these to the circles on the end of the curtain frames. And we do the same at the top. To do this, we'll need to remove a little return on the curtains. And that will hold three sections nicely together. We now have to add the middle section. Now this bit is sometimes the most confusing, and it's actually easier than many people think. So if we unroll it, we end up with one curtain that has got two poles on either end, and we're going to put these poles over the top to attach this to the middle section. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is unroll our centre piece of curtain. And when it's unrolled, we'll find that there is a stick on either end, and we now need to link these over the top of the side curtains. How we do this is we are going to feed this through the gap between the black triangle at the side of the curtain. So, getting my stool, I'm going to reach over and just drop this down inside and just let it find its way down. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. Put the other side over the top and lower it down. We've then finished putting the three parts of our curtain together, so we can remove our step. And the wonderful thing about this, when we have all three parts together, is this middle section opens up to reveal an entrance through which the performer can enter the show. And here we have the finished curtain. You can just check that the top is nice and straight, and if it needs to be moved into position, you can have one person on either end and you can shuffle it into the most appropriate space. We're now going to look at how you can take the backdrop curtain down, and it's essentially doing what we did when we put it up, but in reverse. So the first thing we'll do is go through to the back and look at removing the middle section. So to remove the middle section, we need to go up to these side poles and raise them up through the gap at the top, and again on the other side. Okay. And then we fold them into the middle and quite simply roll up this central section, and that will be ready to go back into the case. The next thing we need to do is remove our joining strips. So we unclip the hooks, and do the same at the bottom. And then these are ready to go back in the case as well. Now we have to take down our side panels. And the first thing to do here, which is quite important, is unhook the curtains from the top of the frame. This is a very important part which, if not done, can cause problems when the frame is collapsed. So we now need to collapse the main structure, and this involves going back to our two red tabs on these two poles, and in the same way that we pushed them gently together, we now need to ease them apart, and this requires a little bit of faith because you've got to push it quite hard and then it will suddenly go, and then we just let the curtain collapse, moving back to allow the curtain not to get tangled within the frame. We can then fold this over and wrap the curtain around. And that's ready to go back in the case. And then we do the same with our other curtain. So we remember to unclip the hook at the top and the side panels. Then we ease the two red tabs apart, let it drop down. I find at this point it's good to move this over the top. And then it folds round nicely onto the frame. And that's our final piece for the case. We then pop in our stool. Inside the case, you'll also find instructions for putting up the backdrop, should these be of use. We then zip it up. Check it's got this label and the next destination is clear on it. And then it's ready to go to its next library.